Desire is not always loud or obvious. In many cases, it is more like a language spoken softly between gestures, pauses, and small shifts of energy. When it comes to women, emotional and physical desire often emerges through subtle cues rather than direct declarations. This is not because women are being secretive, but because desire at its core is a deeply personal and vulnerable experience. It requires trust, safety, and an environment where expression feels welcome. Understanding this idea begins with recognizing that desire itself is a language, one that does not rely only on words but also on emotions, movements, and atmospheres. To understand this language, one must first slow down enough to actually see what is happening. In fast-paced conversations or distracted routines, these signals can go unnoticed. A woman's desire may be expressed in her tone of voice, the rhythm of her speech, or the way her eyes hold contact a little longer than usual. It may also be present in her humor, her playfulness, or the topic she chooses to bring up. These are not random actions. They are the early expressions of an inner state that might be difficult to say directly. Reading these signs requires attention, empathy, and a willingness. Desire as a language also includes nonverbal communication. A light touch on the arm, a tilt of the head, a sudden curiosity about your life, or an eagerness to spend time together can signal more than friendliness. Each of these acts can be a kind of sentence in the silent conversation of attraction. While words can conceal or distort, body language is often closer to truth. Yet it is also nuanced. The same gesture that means interest in one moment could mean simple comfort or support in another. This is why reading desire involves not only noticing a single cue, but also observing patterns over time. Women also communicate desire through emotional openness. When a woman begins to reveal her vulnerabilities, hopes, or private stories, it is often an expression of trust. Trust and desire are intertwined. Emotional closeness can pave the way for physical closeness, but only if it is handled with sensitivity. If someone dismisses or overlooks these signs, the trust can retreat, and so can the desire. This is why paying attention to her emotional state is just as important as noticing the physical signals. Desire grows stronger in spaces where a woman feels emotionally safe, valued, and seen. Another dimension of this language is anticipation and pacing. Desire is not always immediate. It can build slowly, fed by mystery, curiosity, and shared experiences. Women often express desire not only through direct signals, but also through the way they create situations that invite intimacy. This might include initiating deeper conversations, suggesting time alone, or subtly changing routines to allow for closeness. These actions are ways of saying, "I want to connect," without having to use those exact words. The meaning becomes clear only if the other person is paying enough attention to notice and interpret it. Understanding that desire is a language also challenges the assumption that it is purely physical. For many women, desire is woven with emotional resonance, intellectual stimulation, and a sense of safety. This makes their signals more multidimensional. A touch may be more than a touch, a look may be more than a look. It is about context, timing, and the emotional undercurrent beneath the surface. Responding to these cues respectfully does not mean making assumptions or claiming ownership. It means acknowledging what is being communicated and moving at a pace that honors both people's boundaries. Finally, learning this language is not a technique to manipulate, but a practice of presence. It is about seeing another person fully and creating a space where her authentic expression feels invited. When someone becomes fluent in this language, they do not simply decode signals. They build connection, trust, and intimacy from the ground up. This fluency is not learned overnight. It is a process of observation, empathy, and self-awareness where the focus is less on getting it right and more on genuinely being there, ready to listen to what is being said even when no words are spoken. When a woman begins to share more of her inner world, it is one of the clearest and yet most delicate signs of trust and connection. Emotional sharing is not a casual act, it is an opening of the self, a willingness to let another person see beyond the surface. Frustrations, dreams, and vulnerabilities are often hidden behind polite conversation or everyday routines, but when she allows these layers to show, it signals a deeper desire for resonance. This is not simply about wanting someone to listen, but about wanting to be understood on a level that feels intimate and validating. Increased emotional sharing often unfolds gradually. At first, it may appear as small hints or offhand remarks about her day, her stress, or her hopes. Over time, these fragments grow into fuller stories, private memories, or unspoken fears. This process reflects her internal calculation of safety. The more she senses that her emotions will be held without judgment or dismissal, the more she reveals. This is where desire begins to shift from something purely physical to something intertwined with emotional transparency. She is not only expressing interest, she is testing the space to see if it can hold her truth. Desire in this context becomes less about attraction in the narrow sense and more about the longing for emotional attunement. When a woman shares her inner life, she is often looking for someone who can mirror her feelings back, someone who listens carefully and responds thoughtfully. This mirroring creates a feedback loop of trust, making her feel seen and accepted. It also deepens the emotional bond, which in turn can amplify physical desire. When she feels emotionally safe, she becomes more open, more relaxed, and more willing to engage in every layer of intimacy. Emotional sharing also reveals values and boundaries. A woman may confide in you about her dreams not just to inspire closeness but to show who she really is. These revelations are clues to her priorities, her worldview, and her hopes for the future. Understanding these dimensions is essential for a meaningful connection. It also underscores the importance of listening actively rather than passively. Responding with empathy, validating her feelings, and asking gentle questions about what she shares are ways to show that you value her openness. This in itself reinforces the cycle of trust. There is also a vulnerability in revealing frustrations or insecurities. When a woman talks about what bothers her or where she feels unsure, she is risking judgment. In such moments, even a small sign of criticism or mockery can cause her to retreat emotionally. This fragility makes the space of emotional sharing sacred. Handling her openness with respect and care allows desire to evolve in a way that feels authentic. Instead of forcing connection, it grows naturally because it is grounded in mutual understanding and support. Increased emotional sharing may also take the form of shared rituals or repeated conversations. She may bring up her challenges repeatedly not because she has no solutions, but because the act of telling someone feels comforting. She may also share her creative ideas, passions, or personal struggles as a way of inviting you into her mental and emotional landscape. This invitation is significant. It is not simply about venting. It is about including you in the narrative of her life. This kind of sharing blurs the line between emotional and physical desire because intimacy itself is multifaceted. For many women, physical closeness without emotional closeness can feel incomplete. Emotional transparency, therefore, becomes the doorway through which other forms of intimacy pass. Recognizing and responding to this transparency with sensitivity can transform the connection from superficial attraction into a deeper partnership. It shifts the dynamic from transactional interaction to mutual exploration of each other's inner worlds. Being present during these moments does not mean rushing to offer solutions or dominate the conversation. Often, the power lies simply in listening without judgment, holding space for her emotions, asking clarifying questions, and acknowledging the courage it takes to share our forms of respect. These gestures reassure her that her openness is safe, and they encourage her to continue revealing more of herself. This ongoing exchange strengthens trust, reinforces emotional bonds, and nurtures the sense of being seen and valued. Desire that grows out of increased emotional sharing is both subtle and profound. It reflects not just an attraction to someone's appearance, but to their mind, their spirit, and their vulnerabilities. This is why emotional transparency is not a minor signal, but a central one. It is an indicator of trust, of willingness, and of a desire to form something beyond the surface. It is in these spaces of shared inner worlds that the strongest connections take root, creating an intimacy that is as emotional as it is physical, as much about resonance as it is about attraction. Nonverbal signals are one of the most powerful yet overlooked forms of communication in human relationships. When words fall short or feel too vulnerable, small changes in tone, touch, eye contact, or daily routines can reveal a great deal about a person's inner emotional state. For women, especially, these subtle shifts often communicate desire, comfort, curiosity, or unmet needs without a single word being spoken. Understanding these cues requires patience and presence because they are not always obvious. They live in the details, the way someone lingers in a space, the softness of a glance, the tension in a voice, or the frequency of touch. Each of these is a clue, and together they form a language as complex and meaningful as any spoken sentence. Tone of voice is one of the earliest and most telling indicators. A change in rhythm, pitch, or softness can reveal heightened interest, emotional vulnerability, or underlying frustration. For instance, a playful tone might indicate light attraction or desire to connect, while a quieter, slower tone may signal deeper emotions being accessed. When a woman shifts her tone around you, it may be her way of testing emotional safety, showing a side of herself she does not show to everyone else, or inviting a more intimate exchange. Listening not only to what she says, but how she says it can unlock a much richer understanding of her emotional state. Touch is another critical nonverbal cue. It can be intentional or unconscious, light or lingering, playful or nurturing. A hand brushing against yours, a gentle touch on the shoulder, or sitting closer than usual are often ways of expressing connection or attraction without having to verbalize it. Touch also works in reverse. Its absence, withdrawal, or sudden hesitancy can indicate discomfort or unmet needs. Paying attention to the patterns of touch over time helps you distinguish between gestures of habit and gestures of intention. This sensitivity can make someone feel truly seen because you are attuning yourself to the quiet signals of their body language. Eye contact holds a special place among nonverbal signals. Prolonged eye contact can be an invitation to intimacy, curiosity, or trust. It can also communicate excitement, admiration, or a desire to be closer emotionally or physically. Averted gaze or a sudden decrease in eye contact, on the other hand, can indicate shyness, discomfort, or emotional withdrawal. When a woman maintains eye contact longer than usual or her eyes soften in your presence, it is often a sign that she feels some kind of pull toward you. Reading these shifts correctly requires context and empathy. Rather than assuming, it is about noticing patterns and responding respectfully. Changes in routine are another form of nonverbal communication that can signal inner desire or unmet needs. A woman might subtly adjust her schedule to spend more time around you, initiate activities she knows you enjoy, or create opportunities for shared experiences. These small changes are not random. They are deliberate ways of expressing interest or testing compatibility. On the other hand, pulling back from routines, becoming less available, or withdrawing from shared activities can signal emotional distance or frustration. Recognizing these patterns helps you understand not only where desire may be growing, but also where care or attention might be needed. All these signals, tone, touch, eye contact, and routine, work together as a system of communication. They are often interconnected, with one reinforcing another. A shift in tone might come alongside an increase in touch. A change in routine might be paired with longer eye contact. Together, they form a web of meaning that speaks to emotional states far more accurately than isolated cues. This is why paying close attention matters. When you focus on the whole picture, you see not only moments of desire, but also moments of vulnerability, longing, or disconnection. Interpreting nonverbal signals also requires an attitude of empathy and non-judgment. It is easy to project your own assumptions onto someone's behavior, but true understanding comes from observing over time, asking gentle questions when appropriate, and respecting boundaries. Nonverbal cues are not contracts or guarantees, they are invitations to pay attention. They show where someone might be emotionally, but do not obligate any particular response. By treating them as valuable information rather than as confirmation of your own expectations, you build trust and show emotional intelligence. Learning to recognize these subtle shifts transforms relationships. It allows for deeper connection, more meaningful conversations, and a sense of being attuned to another person's inner world. When a woman's tone softens, her touch lingers, her gaze deepens, or her routine shifts, she may be communicating desire, curiosity, or a need for closeness. Equally, she may be signaling frustration or unmet needs. Both require presence and sensitivity. Reading and respecting these signals creates a foundation where authentic connection can thrive, because it honors the full spectrum of communication beyond words. Curiosity is one of the most powerful forces in human connection. When it comes to relationships and intimacy, curiosity has the ability to transform ordinary interactions into meaningful exchanges. Instead of assuming what someone is thinking, feeling, or desiring, curiosity invites you to slow down, ask questions, and genuinely listen to the answers. This approach builds a foundation of respect because it acknowledges the other person's individuality rather than projecting your own interpretations onto them. In the context of desire and emotional closeness, curiosity is not simply about gathering information, it is about creating a dynamic of openness where both people feel seen, heard, and valued. Assumptions are easy to make. They are mental shortcuts built from past experiences, cultural narratives, or personal biases. While they may feel efficient, assumptions often block authentic understanding. When you assume you already know someone's intentions or feelings, you stop listening. You begin interacting with a version of them that exists only in your head rather than the real person in front of you. For women especially, who may communicate desire or discomfort through subtle signals, assumptions can lead to missed opportunities, misunderstandings, or even a breakdown of trust. Curiosity, by contrast, leaves space for discovery. It says, "I do not claim to know you fully. I am willing to learn." Curiosity also communicates respect because it treats the other person as an expert on their own experience. Asking questions such as, "How did that make you feel?" or "What does this mean to you?" invites them to articulate their truth in their own words. This simple act signals that their perspective matters and that you are willing to adjust your understanding based on what they share. This can be particularly powerful in intimate situations where vulnerability is high. When a woman senses that her inner world will not be assumed or dismissed, she feels safer to express herself, whether that expression is emotional, intellectual, or physical. Curiosity also deepens intimacy by encouraging exploration. In relationships, routines and familiarity can lead to complacency. People start thinking they already know everything about their partner, which can dull the sense of mystery and excitement. Curiosity keeps the connection alive by continually seeking to know more. It's about asking new questions, exploring each other's evolving dreams, and being open to change. This mindset recognizes that people grow and shift over time, and that understanding someone requires ongoing attention rather than static assumptions. There is a humility embedded in curiosity. It acknowledges that your perspective is limited and that learning from another person is an ongoing process. This humility can be deeply attractive because it shows emotional intelligence and a willingness to engage authentically. In contrast, assumption can come across as arrogance or disinterest, signaling that you are more invested in being right than in understanding the other person. By choosing curiosity, you create an environment where the other person feels encouraged to be themselves, which in turn strengthens trust and closeness. Curiosity also allows for more honest communication about boundaries and desires. Instead of assuming what the other person wants or expects, you can ask directly, using open-ended questions to clarify their needs. This practice reduces misunderstandings and makes both partners feel more empowered in the relationship. For women who may communicate in layered ways, blending emotional, physical, and social signals, this clarity can be especially meaningful. It prevents overstepping and fosters a culture of consent and mutual respect. Another advantage of curiosity is that it enhances empathy. When you ask questions and listen deeply to the answers, you begin to understand not just the content of someone's words, but the emotions and motivations behind them. This deeper comprehension allows you to respond more thoughtfully and compassionately. It also helps you recognize subtle shifts in mood or behavior, which can be important indicators of unmet needs or growing desires. By keeping curiosity alive, you remain attuned to these changes and can adjust your actions accordingly. Practicing curiosity over assumption requires patience and presence. It means resisting the urge to finish someone's sentences, predict their next move, or draw conclusions before hearing them out. It also means cultivating genuine interest, not just asking questions as a formality, but because you truly want to understand. This authenticity is what turns curiosity into a bridge of intimacy rather than an interrogation. When someone feels your real interest in their experience, they are more likely to open up further, revealing aspects of themselves they might otherwise keep hidden. Ultimately, curiosity transforms relationships because it creates a cycle of openness. One person's genuine questions invite the other's honest answers, which then lead to deeper understanding and trust. This cycle replaces the rigid certainty of assumptions with the fluidity of discovery. It allows desire to emerge naturally, grounded in knowledge and mutual respect rather than guesswork or projection. By making curiosity your default approach, you build a connection that feels alive, evolving, and rooted in a shared commitment to truly knowing one another. In every meaningful relationship, there exists a delicate tension between closeness and independence, between the desire for security and the desire for novelty. This tension is not a flaw but a feature, and learning to navigate it creates the conditions for lasting passion and authentic connection. Balancing mystery and trust means honoring both the need for intimacy and the need for individuality. When partners can be fully themselves while also being deeply connected, the relationship becomes a living, evolving space rather than a fixed arrangement. This balance fuels desire because it keeps curiosity alive without undermining the sense of safety that trust provides. Mystery in a relationship does not mean secrecy or manipulation. It refers to the ongoing sense that your partner is a complex and evolving individual you can never fully own or predict. This mystery sustains interest because it reminds both people that they are continually discovering each other. When one person maintains a rich inner life, new experiences, and personal passions, they bring freshness and vitality back into the relationship. This independent growth makes them attractive not only to themselves but also to their partner, because it signals self-respect, confidence, and evolution. Trust, on the other hand, provides the emotional grounding that allows this mystery to flourish without fear. Trust is built through honesty, reliability, and emotional presence. It reassures each partner that although individuality is respected, the bond remains secure. In relationships without trust, mystery can feel threatening or destabilizing. But when trust is strong, mystery feels exciting, even inspiring, because it occurs within a safe framework. This combination of stability and surprise mirrors the natural rhythms of desire. Safety allows openness, and novelty sparks passion. Keeping individuality alive in a relationship requires conscious effort. It involves nurturing your own interests, friendships, and goals outside the partnership. It also means respecting your partner's independence, encouraging their pursuits, and avoiding the trap of trying to merge into one identity. When both partners maintain their distinctiveness, they create a dynamic exchange rather than a static union. This distinctiveness feeds attraction because it mirrors the conditions under which desire first arises: two separate people drawn together, each curious about the other's world. Balancing mystery and trust also involves managing expectations about disclosure. Complete transparency is not always the same as intimacy. While honesty is essential for trust, preserving some personal space or inner life can keep relationships from becoming overly predictable. The goal is not to withhold, but to allow room for unfolding. This space lets each person surprise the other, reveal new aspects of themselves, and maintain the sense of being a continually evolving individual rather than a fixed character in a shared script. This balance shows up in everyday interactions as well. Offering support without smothering, listening without interrogating, and showing interest without assuming ownership are all ways to nurture trust while leaving room for mystery. It also means celebrating your partner's growth rather than feeling threatened by it. When your partner takes on a new hobby, explores a new passion, or expresses a different perspective, responding with curiosity instead of defensiveness strengthens the relationship. It transforms change into an opportunity for renewed discovery. Desire thrives in an environment where both partners feel free yet connected. Too much closeness without space can lead to complacency or even resentment, while too much independence without connection can erode trust. The art lies in calibrating the two, like maintaining the right tension on a string so it produces a clear, resonant tone. Mystery invites exploration, while trust provides the courage to explore. Each reinforces the other, creating a cycle of excitement and reassurance that keeps the relationship alive. Understanding this dynamic also helps partners navigate inevitable shifts over time. People change, circumstances shift, and relationships go through phases. By embracing the balance of mystery and trust, partners can adapt to these changes rather than resist them. They can approach each new phase with curiosity and openness, seeing it as another chance to discover each other anew. This approach prevents stagnation and keeps passion from fading because it treats the relationship as an ongoing journey rather than a completed destination. In practice, balancing mystery and trust means showing up fully while also stepping back enough to let your partner breathe. It means sharing your life honestly, but also cultivating experiences, thoughts, and growth that are yours alone. It means creating a relationship where both partners feel safe enough to be vulnerable, but also free enough to remain themselves. This balance does not eliminate tension, it harnesses it, transforming it into the spark that drives intimacy, desire, and long-term connection. Responsibility to notice is an act of emotional presence. It means tuning into the cues, shifts, and signals that another person expresses, not as a way to control or predict them, but as a way to honor their humanity. When someone reveals themselves through small gestures, subtle expressions, or quiet shifts in mood, those moments are opportunities to demonstrate care and empathy. Recognizing these signs requires patience, awareness, and a genuine willingness to see beyond the obvious. It transforms relationships because it moves the focus from self-centered assumptions to shared understanding. At its core, noticing is a form of respect. It shows that you value the other person enough to observe them carefully, to remember details, and to respond thoughtfully. For women whose desires, vulnerabilities, or needs may often be expressed indirectly, being noticed can feel like being validated. It affirms that their inner world matters and that their signals are not lost in the noise of everyday life. This is not about decoding or figuring out someone as a puzzle, but about simply being attentive enough to recognize when something is shifting and responding with empathy. This responsibility also carries an element of shared intimacy. Intimacy is not only about closeness, but about attunement, the ability to sense each other's states and respond in ways that feel supportive. When you notice the signs of emotional openness, desire, or discomfort, you create a space of safety where the other person can express themselves more freely. This is particularly important in relationships where vulnerability plays a key role. By noticing, you build a bridge of trust that allows deeper layers of connection to emerge naturally. Empathy plays a central role in this process. Recognizing signs without empathy risks becoming invasive or manipulative. Empathy ensures that noticing remains an act of care rather than a strategy for control. It allows you to interpret signals in context, understanding what someone is expressing might be shaped by their history, mood, or current environment. This perspective encourages patience and humility, acknowledging that you can never fully know another person's experience, but you can do your best to understand and support it. Respect is another cornerstone of this responsibility. Respect means honoring boundaries even as you notice the signs. For example, recognizing that someone is upset does not entitle you to demand explanations. It means offering space, asking gently if they want to talk, or simply being present. Respect transforms noticing from a power dynamic into an act of partnership. It aligns with the principle of consent, recognizing that each person has autonomy over their inner world, even as they share parts of it. Shared intimacy thrives in environments where both people feel seen without feeling surveilled. This requires a delicate balance. Paying attention should feel like support, not scrutiny. When done with warmth, noticing can deepen trust because it reassures the other person that they do not have to shout to be understood. It also allows for more nuanced care. If you sense someone withdrawing, you can offer comfort before frustration builds. If you see excitement or desire emerging, you can respond in ways that nurture it rather than ignoring it. Responsibility to notice also means being aware of your own biases and distractions. In a busy world, it is easy to overlook small shifts in tone, body language, or behavior. Developing attentiveness is a practice. It involves slowing down, being present in conversations, and putting aside assumptions long enough to really observe. This attentiveness benefits both people because it fosters mutual understanding and prevents small issues from growing into larger conflicts. Another aspect of this responsibility is reciprocity. While it is important to notice the other person, it is equally important to invite them to notice you. This mutual awareness creates balance. It transforms the relationship from one-sided caretaking into shared emotional stewardship. Both people become more attuned, more responsive, and more capable of supporting each other's growth and well-being. Ultimately, responsibility to notice is about nurturing a climate of empathy and respect where subtle signals are not dismissed or misinterpreted. It encourages listening with more than the ears, seeing with more than the eyes, and responding with more than the mind. It makes relationships feel alive because both partners are actively participating in the silent dialogue of gestures, moods, and unspoken needs. This level of presence honors individuality while also strengthening the collective bond, making intimacy a living process rather than a fixed state.